Hello and welcome to the Post-Up Show. This is Cyrus Rogers.
This is Kaunda, Chama. How y'all doing?
You ask that every week and they can never reply. Okay, that's what we got to do. Let's start with
in the comments.
Yeah, let's start in the comments. So make sure you reach out to us at Post-Up Podcast on Instagram and on Twitter, and also just leave a comment on underneath this video. But this is the Post-Up Show. Without further ado, let's get stuck into our topics for today.
Yes, Cyrus. One of the biggest things you and I have been talking about recently is who's performing in the East, in terms of players.
Yeah, and specifically African players.
Yes.
We want to shine a spotlight on our African brothers who are doing so well in the NBA this season, and specifically in the Eastern Conference, where they're just shooting the lights out. And none other than Giannis Antetokounmpo has to come to mind first.
Well, Cyrus, as a guy who's taken his team to the top of the Eastern Conference. I'm not saying him alone, but obviously, Coach Budenholzer has played a major part there as well.
There's a few other players as well.
But he is the leader of the squad, right?
No, he definitely is. I think, Giannis has tried to mold himself as one of the critical leaders in the NBA. Mm-hmm. He's been so good, and he's MVP caliber. Some people have him as the front runner for MVP this season, and you see it in how the Bucks have been playing. And to be the number one seed in the East says a lot about what they've been doing.
The number one team in the league.
In the NBA, yeah.
And the first team to clinch this season, to
that
clinch
is
the playoff
true.
spot. So, he's done a lot. I mean, they're 51-17 right now. And Cyrus, this guy, he is averaging a double-double. Mm-hmm. He's kept that up for such a long time. You can't fault him. Leading his squad in all the major statistical categories. Yeah. Obviously, he's not the best three-point shooter, so we won't say he's the best three-point shooter.
We're not trying to make him Steph
on the squad, but he is basically...
He's the fulcrum.
Yes.
He's the fulcrum, and everything goes through him, and everything that he does is scrutinized, and he hasn't come up short. He's so dominant in the paint. That's something that Shaq has been talking about a lot, in the sense that Giannis just cannot be stopped when he's near the basket. He's got the ball in his hand. It looks like an orange, and he's dunking it over everybody.
You see, Cyrus, for me, I'm going to take you back to one of your favorite moments when you were in a bus with the Antetokounmpos.
Yes.
When they came to Africa for the Africa game in 2015, the first one. You remember that Giannis?
Yeah.
Skinny,
skinny boy.
Looking
his
scrawny.
English was not great.
Well, English doesn't count in the court, believe me.
It doesn't, right? Except for so you'd be like, hey yo.
Ball. That's all you need to know. But he was skinny and scrawny. Okay, by NBA standards at least. By our standards, he was quite a big guy.
He was a big guy.
But now you've seen he puts in time in the gym. Mm-hmm. He puts in time, on the court. He practices his shots. He works on his moves. And can you really stop a spinning Giannis?
Can you stop a moving Giannis? And I think that's it.
He has become big. Remember the pictures we were looking at in the office?
When he was gymming,
with him and his brothers gymming. We were just like, whoa.
Ridiculous. And some of those gymming videos that came out, his hip thrusting is ridiculous. I think some people are in trouble. But the thing about
Giannis...
Stay
freaky.
Stay freaky, for real. But I think the thing about Giannis, though, is that he's tapped into his inner Mamba. Mm-hmm. Because when you look at the time he spent, learning from Kobe, trying to get into Kobe's head about what made him great, you see that Giannis has taken a lot of that on board. Even the time he spent with KG,
I was about to say the Kevin Garnett sessions must have done a lot for him and Thon Maker.
And that had to do with playing in the post. But you understand that Giannis's game has evolved so much more than just the post play. Obviously, we're not talking about the three-point shooting or, in fact, his jump shot at all.
Let's leave that alone.
But it is getting better. But I think the thing about it is the desire to become one of the greatest players in the NBA today. In fact, in the world, Giannis has that. He's got that killer instinct. And this is a guy who says just recently that he feels so Nigerian. Mm-hmm. He might not have spent any time in Nigeria, but when they were growing up in Greece, he said outside the doors of his home, they were in Greece. But as soon as he went into his house, it was Nigeria. That's what his parents raised him and his brothers with, this sense of the Africanness, the sense of the Nigerianness. And you can see that he's trying to be the best he can be.
No, Cyrus, and his level of maturity, I'm glad at what level he is, as a mature young man. Because recently I was reading an article where he was quoted as saying the thing about young NBA players right now is that they're so focused about being in the public eye and being on the cover of Slam magazine and being in another sports publication, and they forget that their job is to play basketball and win games. And I was like, wow. this is a guy who's potentially going to be MVP, and he's going to be wanted on the cover of certain magazines.
Yep.
But he's like, you know what? That's not really what I'm here for. I'm here to play this game, and I'm here to play this game to the best of my abilities.
And that's it, because this is his lifestyle. This is his living. He's earning his bread for his family. And the thing is that what happens with Giannis and the contracts that he's going to sign in the future and the shoe deals and all of that stuff paves the way for what happens for his grandkids.
Oh, he teased 4th of April, 2019.
For the
He just said
shoe.
something big is going to happen, and it had like a shoe print in the back of the design. I didn't know. Like,
okay, so you think it's a sneaker. I think he might put his foot in somebody's backside.
I don't know. And you know, I've been waiting for these Giannis ones or Freak ones or Greek Freak ones.
It's going to be some combination of all of the above.
All the above, and
They won't be the
4th of
Antetokounmpo
April.
ones.
No, that's I don't
way
think we
too
have
long to
space
fit on there,
on
yeah.
on any sneaker for Antetokounmpo one.
Exactly. So this is what we're hoping to see. We're hoping to see Giannis go up and do his thing. I still don't think he's going to be the MVP this season, but I would love it if he was.
Woo! The shade.
It's not shade. I'm
Team
just telling
Giannis.
it like it is.
Team
Look,
Giannis.
James
for
Harden
MVP.
be doing some incredible things.
Yeah, I can't knock the Harden.
So let's go back to the African players that we've really been watching, and one of the others for me has got to be, in fact, let's look at it in terms of the hierarchy in the league. The one team, two players that are standing out, that's the Toronto Raptors. Serge Ibaka and Pascal Siakam have just been phenomenal.
Dude, these guys, and I gotta be honest, I foresaw that Pascal Siakam was going to perform a little bit better than his big brother Serge. The young Cameroonian is really, really outstanding. I mean, he
and you mean that as figurative, big brother? In case somebody listening and they'll be like, "What? They're related?
They're related. No,
Africa's one country."
No, one's from Cameroon, who is Pascal Siakam,
yeah.
and Serge Ibaka is from Congo Brazzaville. So let's just keep that real. But I'm talking about, like, obviously they're brothers on the court. You know what I'm saying? And one is older than the other.
Brothers in arms,
Brothers in arms. So Pascal Siakam, a young. He's so vibrant, and when you speak to him, when you interview him, he's so intelligent. He's so smart, and you can tell now he's developing such great court vision.
That's it.
You can have all the moves you want. You can dunk and do whatever. If your court vision isn't up,
It's
there with
his
the best
basketball IQ.
Yes, if your IQ isn't that high, you're not going to be a great player. And I think that's one thing Pascal Siakam is developing. And remember, this young man had to hone his skills at the G League at one point, and some people would have written him off.
But that's the beautiful thing about it, especially the G League as a developmental space, because obviously it being the developmental league is a space where these guys have to learn. And Pascal has really been incredible because he's taken every lesson on board. He was the MVP of the G League finals a couple of years ago, and you see that he's just gone from strength to strength. And I think that having the right kind of coach helped him, because when Dwayne Casey was there, he gave him opportunities, and Pascal was doing really well. Now that Nick Nurse is there, he seems to be given a lot bigger role in the team, and man, he has flourished. He's like a flamingo on that court. He's just out there, spicy P, spinning on these guys, dunking on them, and he's even showed that his jump shot is not bad either.
Cyrus, you just cooked up a whole meal. Spice, flamingos.
I mean, I don't know if I'll be cooking any flamingos, but
we don't know. Hungry times might go for desperate meals.
That is true.
No, but Cyrus, everything you said is correct. I mean, look, he's putting up 16.4 points a game, 7 rebounds, and I knew the time that Coach Dwayne Casey and Coach Nick Nurse starting him in that 4 position, I knew he was going to flourish.
He owned it.
He knew that, look, Serge Ibaka is a force to be reckoned with, and if they give me the opportunity to start before Serge Ibaka, I got to make the most of this position. And that's exactly what he's done.
And I think this is what the competitive nature of some of these young African players has showed, is that there is a desire to keep pushing. Because, nothing's come easy to any of these guys. And the route to the NBA has been really circuitous and really tough. So when you look at what Pascal Siakam has done, you understand that he's seen his chance, he's grabbed it with both hands, and he's trying to rip the wings off that thing, because he's going to make sure he keeps it on board.
So Cyrus, most improved player of the year candidate?
I have to admit that he's way up there. For me, in fact, at the beginning of the season, if you remember, I said to you, I think Pascal is going to be the most improved player of the year.
And I think he might prove you right.
Yeah, he might. I think the only thing being that D'Angelo Russell went and became an All-Star this season, and that really is going to be the turning point. If Pascal had gotten an All-Star nod as well, I think it would be hands down Pascal Siakam is the most improved player of the year.
Yeah, there was a point where he got a good number of votes, and I thought, wow, he might just make it into the reserves.
But apparently, the whole of Canada voting for him just wasn't enough.
Wasn't enough, and I think Yaoundé could have done a lot more.
Well, they probably could have. The Cameroon as a whole.
Yeah, Cameroon.
But I think that what we also have to look at here is Serge Ibaka.
Oh.
That he had almost seemed as a bit of a spent force at one point because. People were like, no, but he's no longer the blocker that he was before. He's not showing that level of fight and commitment. Well, boy, is he showing the fight.
Yeah, no pun intended.
Scraps. Yeah.
Don't push him over.
No, Marquise Chris is gonna feel that for a while, and Serge's bank account's gonna feel it after his suspension. But I think the thing about it though is that Serge's improvement has been on how he's played. He's knocking down 3-point shots. He's grabbing rebounds. He's blocking again. But he's also facilitating space. He's creating space for the other players on the team. So his screens just been so incredible.
I think, Cyrus, that comes with just his experience. I mean, he was a great player from the OKC days.
Yeah,
when he played in Oklahoma, he was great. I mean, he played with James Harden there at the time. He played with Kevin Durant. He played alongside Russell Westbrook, of course. And I think he brings with him a lot of wealth of experience. In terms of veteran influence on this team, Serge Ibaka is definitely becoming one of those guys where, I mean, he's not like an old vet like Vince Carter, but, he's a vet in
experience in the league. Experience
in his own right. And I think he's doing a lot insofar as, I think even if you were to ask Pascal Siakam about who is talking to him and who is influencing him and who he's learned a lot from, besides maybe a Luke Mbamute, obviously with them coming from the same country, I think Serge Ibaka, with them being on the same team, has to be that guy.
Without question. And you see that they spend a lot of time together, a lot of these African guys and what have you. I mean, Serge spends a lot of time with OG Anunoby. They pictured themselves, they were on Twitter and Instagram listening to Miriam Makeba.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
Dancing to that. And I mean, that's just so beautiful to see, listening to African music. And then the idea of experiencing the NBA with somebody who's been there. Yeah. So these guys, it's an invaluable asset to them. And so Pascal can learn so much. OG Anunoby at the Raptors, the British-Nigerian guy, can also do so well. But Serge has just showed that he's not going to slow down. He wants to do big things. He's done a lot in the past, and he shouldn't be written off, and you can see it this season.
No, definitely. I mean, you can't just sit there and say, okay, there's a new young buck on the scene.
Yeah, I'm going to just fade into obscurity.
Hey, Pascal, I'm going to give you this one, and I'm going to fade into obscurity here. Concentrate on my cooking show,
Exactly.
No.
I must say, if there's one thing we got to do, we got to go to Serge Ibaka's place and have a meal with him. I think that is on my bucket list. Serge, I know you're going to listen to this, so make sure you cook up something real good for the post-up crew.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. We're going to go to freezing Toronto, but we're going to have a hot meal in Serge's kitchen.
We've invited ourselves, Serge. But the last African player we want to highlight here has got to be one of the most dominant players in the NBA at the moment. Joel Embiid from the Philadelphia 76ers, an unbelievable talent. He has weathered so many storms, from the injury front to tragedy in the family, and he's just come out on the other side. And this is a kid who has he's had to learn as he's gone. He hasn't really had too many people who could lean on, but man, has he made a name for himself.
Cyrus, one of the greatest things I think people like you and I can attest to is having watched players like Joel Embiid make it into the league. We saw him at Basketball Without Borders, and next thing he was drafted into the league. Obviously, he had the 2 seasons he had to sit out due to injury, and we're like, oh my word, what's going to happen? But now he's come back as such a force. Cyrus, he is the process.
He really is.
I'm told.
He is the process. He's the personification of that process. And what's been really remarkable about him is that his mental strength must be way up there. Yeah. There are so many other players who could have been down and out.
They could have crumbled.
Exactly. And I think this is where you find that Embiid's mental strength is really what will get him far in life. I think he's going to be one of the key players for the Philadelphia 76ers for as long as that relationship lasts, because he will want to prove that he's got the chops to win big.
Look, he's also putting up a double-double. 27.2 points and 30.6 rebounds is no joke. Coupled with
7 points a game,
3.4 assists and 2 blocks.
Yeah.
So he's blocking more than Serge Ibaka and Pascal Siakam are coming in on the 1.4 blocks per game. So it goes to show you he's everywhere. Offensively, he's there. Defensively, he's there. And if you're playing around with him, he'll put you on blast on social media
He's
platforms.
also there on the Twitter streets. He's on them
He's
streets.
on the Twitter streets. He's on Instagram streets. He's everywhere. This guy, he is the process.
In fact, when he says, "I'm in your head," like he definitely is. And I think this is what we love about Joel Embiid, because he has showed that any kid, given the right kind of opportunities and with the drive to succeed, can overcome anything to make it in the NBA. Absolutely. Because he's really proof that the NBA system globally works. To have played in a Basketball Without Borders camp in South Africa, via his links through Lukemba Mute, who actually sort of put him on after his sort of camps in Cameroon, you see that this is a guy who saw exactly how the path works. He ended up going to high school in the US, and then from there to college, and then from college straight into the NBA. And man, adaptability, the physicality, that will to win. He'll make friends with you if he needs to, but he also understands it's an individual thing that has to happen here.
Cyrus, we forget that he was only at Basketball Without Borders, 2011?
Yeah.
That wasn't a long time ago.
Not that long ago.
8 years ago, he was a young camper, under 18, at Basketball Without Borders
Skinny.
in Johannesburg. So yes, he was a little bit smaller than he looks now.
You're trying to be very kind there. But he was a skinny young buck, and he was trying to do things. So those are the players we've been looking out for in the NBA, and we've really been impressed with those.
But Cyrus, I got to drop an honorable mention.
Yeah.
I got to drop an honorable mention.
Do it.
He's injured right now.
Yeah.
And it's a season-ending injury. And I've been watching the videos of him like shooting from a bench because he can't stretch his leg properly. Victor Oladipo. Yeah. For me, Cyrus, if he was fit right now, first of all, looking at where the Pacers are at the moment and what he's been doing for their franchise, I think we would be talking about Victor.
We'd be remiss for not mentioning him. So we have to mention him.
I got an honorable mention, Victor Oladipo there. Get well soon, Victor. Yeah. We might come visit you too in Indiana, cook up some jollof rice.
Let's see well, he did say he's a fan of jollof, so he was telling our sister in the media, Chineo Gumike, that he's all about that jollof life. So, let's see. But I hope that he gets well soon, and I hope he gets back to his best. Because if anything, you see a lot of these players who suffer some kinds of injuries like this will worry about where their body is. And I think that Victor is the kind of person who also got the mental toughness to come back and show that he can do it. So those are our African players that we've been looking at in the NBA and been really impressed with. Kaunda. I like to speculate here and play these games where we look at okay, fine, what would have happened if such and such would have occurred today? Yeah. Well, guess what, Kaunda? I want to talk to you today about what the potential matchups would be if the season were to end today. We've got just over a month left of the regular season, right? Yeah. In fact, until the playoffs begin. Yeah. And both of the conferences are incredibly well poised. So I think let's go through the West first, because your matchups would be Golden State versus the Jazz. Yep. You'd have the Thunder taking on the Trailblazers. You'd have the Rockets taking on the Spurs. Yep. And then you have the Nuggets facing the Clippers.
I love it.
Great matchups. I think first things first. No Lakers. Okay, had to say that. Right, that's out of the air. Now, what were you going to say?
I'll say, okay, first things first, let's keep it real. The Golden State Warriors and the Utah Jazz. I think the Golden State Warriors would take this in 5 games.
Okay, I mean, I like what you've done there, in the sense that you've still given the Jazz a game.
I think the Golden State Warriors would also give them a game.
It's possible. It's possible.
Maybe at home.
But they've played each other before, in fact, not too recent past. And the Jazz tried, but they just couldn't get over the Golden State hump. And I think I'd agree with you there, but I don't know about that. I think it might be a 4-2.
We're talking 4-1 here. Can we just keep it real? Okay, if you can put 5 All-Stars on that floor.
Yeah, I get you, but All-Stars are not monsters. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So now we've got the Thunder versus the Trailblazers. That's actually a tough matchup, because that would be the 4th seed versus the 5th seed.
This would be a 7-game.
You think so?
7-game series. I see where Damian Lillard is coming from. 3J McCollum last night just reminded us where he's coming from. Yeah. Yusuf Nurkic.
No, they've got the players.
Some nice pieces. Let's not forget the Chief. Yeah, I was about to say the Chief is there, and he has his nights. So, big shout out to Portland, how they're performing, but OKC is also on fire. So that's why I'm saying this would be a blazing matchup.
And I don't know, I see what you did
Lightning
there.
would strike
I see what you did there, but they've also been a damn squib in the past.
Nope.
Because who swept them last season?
That was last season, Cyrus.
This is my point, is that you just don't know what you're going to get with the Blazers in the postseason. I would love for them to do well, but I think that the Thunder are just mentally in the right place. Russell Westbrook, although he's had some off-the-court issues, has been doing well on the court too. And so, Paul George, who on that Blazers team is going to stop him?
Look, my 7-game series did not end with Portland winning.
Oh, well, there is that. You'll give them a game.
I'll give them 3 games.
It'll be a series.
It'll be a series. But OKC would take it. I mean, I hadn't finished. I know I started talking about CJ and I talking about Chief, and you probably thought, oh, this guy thinks Portland's going to beat OKC. No. This is the keeping it real section of the show, Cyrus.
We like that.
Speaking of keeping it real,
yeah.
The Rockets versus the Spurs. This is beautiful because I think for the first time in a long time, the San Antonio Spurs would be given an early exit.
Well, I don't know why that's beautiful for you.
They would have to. No, because I'm a big Rockets fan.
Yeah,
I'm a big Rockets fan.
Yeah, I know. You've got those Rockets affiliations.
My kids play in the Houston Rockets in the Junior NBA Johannesburg League. So I gotta keep it real.
I thought they were Raptors now.
Well, it's a long story.
It's fine. I mean,
we haven't finished the trade papers yet, and I'm their manager. But look. The San Antonio Spurs, obviously, they've lost a lot of key players, and I think they're rebuilding. Yeah. And I think the Rockets have got a point to prove. They are playing with a big chip on their shoulder. I mean, the way they exited the Western Conference Finals last year, the Chris Paul injury. I mean, it'll have anybody coming back wanting to prove a lot. And face it, I think they've got more firepower than the Spurs. Yeah, it wouldn't be an outright sweep, but the Spurs would struggle.
I think that the Spurs, their main aim was to make the postseason, nothing more. And so I'd agree with you there. I think the Rockets would have too much firepower. But this is also Coach Greg Popovich. And
I know.
Things could be weird, but I think that the Spurs have come up against the Warriors in the past and been shown up by them. So I think the Rockets would do the same. The Spurs just aren't quite there yet, but they will get there. Absolutely. I think next season's going to be really interesting. But the Nuggets versus Clippers series is another one. I think that's going to be a banana peel for the Nuggets. They've been really good. Mm-hmm. I've actually got a friend who's in Denver at the moment. He's loving the Nuggets, but he's worried about them. And I think he's right to be worried about them because they've showed that in the regular season they can play. Mm-hmm. Playoffs is a totally different beast.
It is, and that's why I was saying, let's not give them an outright win. I know the Clippers would come in at the 7th spot, but I've seen some fight in the Clippers. But with them having lost Tobias Harris and Boban Marjanovic, I think they've lost two.
They don't really have
pieces.
A lot of firepower.
But Patrick Beverley's. He's a man on fire.
He is going for it, but he's not.
Williams. He's a man on fire.
But he's defensive, and this is the thing is that I suppose that's how you beat the Nuggets, right?
Absolutely.
Is that you just stop them from scoring, and I think the Nuggets do have a lot of young players who haven't been in this space before. So I think that's the reason why I think, for me personally, the Clippers are going to beat the Nuggets in that first round.
You think so?
I think so.
Look, I might have spoken smack about the Nuggets just a little bit, but look, let's look at the fact that they've got Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, Jokic is one guy.
Let's look at the fact that they've got my man that they got from the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, Millsap.
Paul Millsap.
Yeah.
Let's look at Gary Harris.
Yeah, Jamal Murray.
I mean,
and Torrey Craig.
And people are forgetting that they've got Isaiah Thomas, who's seen this thing go all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. I know the East is not the West, but he's got bright lights experience.
He's got the experience. You've also got, a couple of other players who would want to prove that they're at the top level.
Yeah.
But I do think that the Nuggets will lack in experience from the starters. And this is what's going to kill them because they didn't make the playoffs last season. And I think that Mike Malone has done well.
The Clippers would have more experience than that.
But look at the battlers that they have on the Clippers, right? Because you've got the likes of Montrezl Harrell.
Yep.
You've got Lou Williams there.
Yep.
You've got Danilo Gallinari. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of guys who really love to fight. They will play hard-nosed basketball. They will make life really tough for the Nuggets. And when the pressure's on, these young, talented players at the Nuggets might not have enough to get past that. And I think this is where the Clippers and Doc Rivers will be street smart.
And I'm surprised you mentioned the word Clippers and fight in the same sentence without mentioning Patrick Beverley.
Whoa, look.
That's quite amazing.
I kept my distance from that one. You saw
Big
what
shout
I
out to
did?
Patrick.
Yeah, exactly.
Big shout out to Patrick. We might visit you in LA. We don't want no beef.
No, but I think Patrick Beverley will be the first person to say that he's got a lot of fight in him. And I think those are our thoughts of the Western Conference within that particular space. Moving to the East, Kaunda.
Cyrus, look, first of all, one of my favorite matchups because you called it and it would happen because I was expecting, the Orlando Magic to meet the Milwaukee Bucks, but the Heat have done exactly what you said they'd do.
Eric Spoelstra, you can't count out that guy.
So it would have the Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
Then we'd have the Indiana Pacers taking on the Boston Celtics. That'll be the 3 versus the 4. I mean, the 4 versus the 5. Sorry.
Yeah.
That'll be fantastic. Then we'll go
matchup.
Philadelphia 76ers versus the Brooklyn Nets. Cyrus, I'm so impressed with the Brooklyn Nets this season.
They've been good.
We were laughing at them last season.
We did laugh at them. We can't even take those laughs
pull
back.
out my Nets t-shirt. I know where it is. Then, of course, we'd have the second-seeded Toronto Raptors playing the Detroit Pistons. So let's go back to the top. If Giannis was to meet Grandpa Juice, what would happen here?
Bucks are going through. Bucks took down the Heat. The Heat just don't have enough star players.
Would it be a sweep?
It'll be close. I think this will be a 5-game one. I think that the Bucks will maybe let one go, but I think that Giannis and the rest of the guys in the Milwaukee team will have enough. I think they've got what it takes in order to get the wins, especially early on. At Bucks to take them one.
Bucks to take that. I can't argue with that. The Bucks are really on a hot streak, and I think they can take this first round nice. And I think they've been very unfortunate back in the days when they had the LeBron-led East, if you will, and the Bucks didn't really get deep. Runs into the playoffs.
They couldn't.
And they were either
brick wall in front of them.
Yeah, they're either the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Toronto Raptors to make sure they don't go too far.
Celtics.
Or the Boston Celtics themselves. So I think this is a great year for them.
Yeah, it was a good chance to get out and get into the conference semis and see what happens from there. Indiana versus Boston for me is a tough one because I think the Celtics should take that one. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I do think that there's something wrong with the Celtics at the moment. They're hoping that it clicks just before the postseason. They're hoping that it clicks during the postseason and that they have a deep run. But the divisions seem to be there. You can see those cracks.
They need to sort out that locker room situation, Cyrus. It's definitely a locker room situation. I think, personally, this is coming straight from my mind. I don't think the young'uns are respecting Kyrie as a leader, and that becomes problematic. I think he has hinted towards it. You remember the call to LeBron where he said, now I understand that I was inexperienced and I didn't.
I was talking this trash, LeBron.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think it was indirectly telling the kids that please don't do this. I've done this before, and I regretted it later, and you might regret it later. So I think once everybody just takes a step back and goes, okay, Kyrie's the leader. Let's follow his lead. Things might change.
And I think this is what's going to happen because these guys understand that pride is at stake here and the playoffs are really a big showcase. So to dig deep here, I think the Celtics will take that one. It'll possibly go to 6 or 7 games.
Yep.
It's just that I think the Indiana Pacers, they've done really well to get to this point and to stay at this point. But it's just going to be too far for them.
The absence of Vic also plays a big part here.
It really does. And Nick McMillan has done a great job with Indiana Pacers. But I just don't see how they get past the Celtics side if this is who they matched up against.
Hey, look, last season with Vic, if I must say, they did take the Cleveland Cavaliers, led by LeBron James, to a 7-game series and almost beat them in their backyard.
Yeah.
So, look,
anything's possible.
If Boston doesn't get their act together, they could see an early exit here.
It's true. Who do you have in that, though?
Oh, I got the Celtics. I believe Uncle Drew is going to go and say, guys, come on.
Let's do this.
Let's do this.
Maybe you don't like me, maybe you don't trust me, but let's win together.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's do it for Boston.
Philly versus Brooklyn.
Look, we've spoken a lot about D'Angelo Russell. Some of his teammates also are putting up, good plays.
Numbers. Joe Harris, we like him.
Joe Harris won the 3-point contest, and he continues to contribute to that scoreboard. But Philly,
with a fit Joel Embiid.
Philly with a fit Joel Embiid. They have Jimmy Buckets. They have Tobias Harris.
Ben Simmons.
They have Ben Simmons. They have
JJ Redick.
TJ McConnell. Yeah. They have a Sasquatch in the form of Boban Marjanovic.
Yeah.
Listen, this is a foregone conclusion.
Okay.
I give Brooklyn one game here.
So you think it's a 5-gamer?
Look, yes, it's a 5-game because the Sixers have a lot to prove.
Yeah.
They've stacked up, they're a young team, and they know that I think their biggest threat in this league, Cyrus, to be honest, in my opinion, is the Milwaukee Bucks. When the Sixers look at the East, they're like, okay, Toronto Raptors, we might be able to push those guys. But the Bucks are our biggest.
If they're looking at it in terms of teams, I get you there. But I think their biggest issue is themselves, in the sense that if you don't believe, they made some terrible calls towards in the playoffs last season, and really basically lost games because they couldn't play them out.
Well, I hope they learned from that, Cyrus, and I think that's the whole thing of the season keeps coming back every year. Progression. So you learn from your mistakes. Like you don't see Draymond Green trying to kick anybody in the
in the nethers.
That's how you lose championships. You get suspended for one game and things fall apart.
I agree that Philly are going to take this one. I think that the Nets might take 2 games here.
2 games?
Yeah, I'm going to give them 2. So
that is a believer.
But I do think that the Sixers are going to make a relatively light work of them. It's just that they do switch off now and again. So it might be the 2 away games, and then we'll see. Well, one of the 2 early away games.
Yeah.
And the Raptors versus the Detroit Pistons.
Look, Andre Drummond, that's Big Dre, that's my boy. We hung out when he was here for the Africa game.
Yeah.
And Blake Griffin. We love Blake Griffin.
I love
Blake Griffin. But the Toronto Raptors, big shout out to Nick Nurse. Well-oiled, well-coached, well-played. It's a bit about the weather in Toronto, but
he can't do anything about that.
We can't do anything about that.
He doesn't have any other weather on the bench.
No. But honestly speaking, the Toronto Raptors are doing great things. I think Kyle Lowry could play a little bit better, if you ask me. I think he's struggled a little bit this season. Maybe it's
by his standards, yeah.
Yeah, by his standards. I think maybe after his best friend was traded to the San Antonio Spurs.
We gotta suck it up and move on, though.
Yeah,
but I get you.
Maybe that was a factor. I'm just saying that was a factor. But look, he's got enough great pieces around him. Even your likes of Fred VanVleet have been pulling up the socks, And I just see when we've spoken about Serge, we've spoken about Pascal, we've spoken about OG, Jonas Valanciunas.
He's gone.
Oh, Jonas is gone. Sorry, I forget
Marc
that.
Gasol.
Even better, they've got a Gasol in their ranks. With Marc Gasol there. Look, they're going to do.
They should.
They're going to do damage to Detroit.
And I think that's the problem here, because the Detroit Pistons might have a lot of height in terms of
team length.
Yeah, team length in terms of Blake Griffin and Drummond. But it's the other players in their playing staff.
Yeah, they need...
Like Luke Kennard is not the guy.
Look, they need a great backcourt. They need to build.
They've got to at least try and build something, and that's what Dwayne Casey's doing. It just hasn't had much wiggle room.
Absolutely.
And so we'll see. I mean, what's been interesting is seeing Reggie Bullock leave and do fairly well at the Lakers. And so you understand, that perhaps Reggie Jackson can do his thing.
Reggie Jackson has just not progressed to be. You don't speak about Reggie Jackson in the same conversations as a Kyrie Irving, as a Damian Lillard, as a Steph Curry.
No,
you don't. So,
and that's the sort of caliber player you need in order to start making that push going forward. And I totally agree with you there. It's just that they haven't necessarily had the leverage. But this is a game that I think, a series that the Raptors should take. And Nick Nurse, if they can't get past this, everybody getting fired. Masai Ujiri getting fired, Nick Nurse getting fired, everybody getting fired.
Let's not have that.
and I think this is the interesting thing about where we are in the playoffs at the moment.
Yep.
Okay, so Kaunda, that's just about all we've got time for on the podcast this week.
What?
So I think what we got to do is save some of our energy for next week's podcast, because there's a whole bunch we got to talk about there in terms of what's happening with the coaches.
Yep.
There's a whole lot of coaches doing so well in the NBA. We focus on the teams, but it's the guys behind the teams we got to talk about too.
Absolutely.
So keep listening, keep watching, keep tuned to the Post Up Podcast and the Post Up Show.
Yep.
Go to Instagram, go to Twitter. We're at Post Up Podcast.
And leave your comments. We love the feedback. If you disagree with us, we love that even more. We do get some DMs where people disagree with us, like, really hectically. Yeah. But even if you want to keep it light and put it in the comments section, we don't mind. We will respond.
We will indeed. Till next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.